Good day, ViewTech family, and thank you for tuning in to the first episode of Season 3 of ViewTech's Neighborhood Chat podcast. In this episode, we're chatting about self-care in Black and Brown communities. In this segment, we are specifically exploring what self-care is. In the segments to follow, we will chat more closely about self-care for women in segment 2, men in segment 3, our youth in segment 4, and self-care and relationships in segment 5. So be sure to look out for each segment, watch them as many times as you'd like, and share them with family and friends that you know can benefit from them. So let's get things started. If you can access the chat right now, let us know in the chat how you finished the statement, self-care is. And while you're letting us know in the chat what self-care is to you, let's neighborhood chat. When we listen to our bodies, hearts, and minds, and consider feedback from those we trust, those that know us and understand us, we can find resiliency. We can renew our lives, work, and our community. Fundamentally, self-care refers to the things we do to keep ourselves healthy. We each have the stuff we do to maintain our health and wellness based on our individual needs. Self-care requires that we actively engage and put forth conscious efforts to either keep up with or form new habits. These are habits that benefit our health and wellness. Caring for ourselves and regularly doing things for our health and wellness helps to bring balance, bring focus, and promote mindfulness to our lives. In turn, when we regularly participate in taking care of ourselves, we help ourselves better navigate the challenging issues and circumstances of life. This is true personally, socially, professionally, and politically. So let's go a bit deeper into what self-care is and understanding why it matters. Self-care is a wide range of practices and activities we each engage in to care for ourselves regularly, and perhaps too often without the consultation of medical, clinical, or any other type of helping professional. Self-care practices address more than just the physical and mental health aspects of our lives. Self-care also addresses the emotional and spiritual aspects of our lives at the most basic level. Some define self-care as the need to balance and maintain the mind, the body, and the spirit, or put differently, our thinking, our feeling, and our discerning. Self-care is often referred to as wellness, a healthy balance, resilience, or pampering. Yet self-care is so much more than that. We engage in self-care to balance our lives and to improve and preserve our physical and emotional health, especially when we acknowledge that our mind, body, and spirit are interrelated and need one another to be healthy. We want them to be in balance. We are in balance when our total body is able to do what you want it to do what we need it to do day in and day out, and to fulfill our goals and purpose. Self-care is not an emergency response plan. Self-care is not something that we can fall back on, something that we activate when our medical doctors tell us we need to lose weight or when stress becomes overwhelming. Let's be clear. If your medical doctor tells you that you need to lose weight or reduce stress to improve your health, you absolutely need to carefully consider that. You need to consider the guidance from your medical provider to do what is necessary to help your treatment, which may and probably should include self-care. However, self-care, when included in your regular daily living, may actually help to prevent or enhance treatment for a medical condition in the first place. Self-care is just one piece of our lives, a big piece, a cog in the wheel that allows us to be our best selves. Another important aspect of self-care, meaning another part of our lives that impacts our health and our need for self-care, is relationships. Our relationships take emotional investment and at times heartfelt and intellectual work, which means our relationships can either help to improve our lives or they can take a negative toll on us. It is important to note that we are talking about all relationships, our personal and professional relationships, our relationships with family members, our relationships with friends, our relationships with coworkers, bosses, colleagues, clients, and employees, and of course, our romantic relationships. Each of these relationships requires us to provide them with some level of care. Each of these relationships in our lives, every single one of these relationships in our lives, requires some form of emotional energy and effort with sensitivity from us. So while caring for others can be incredibly fulfilling, the work, the effort, and the commitment required can also result in burnout. Another reason it is important to recognize the importance and benefits of self-care is the unforeseen impact of some seemingly unrelated parts of our lives. So when we prioritize our health, mental and physical and emotional health, we are better equipped to manage the demands of life personally, financially, and professionally. Self-care helps us to manage the unforeseen impact of the various parts of our lives. Self-care helps us avoid getting burned out, being spread too thin. There's this common misconception that to accomplish more, you need to sacrifice more. This view, as it pertains to our health and well-being, may be short-sighted and can lead to high levels of stress or burnout. The term burnout commonly refers to the fatigue experienced by the demands from professional settings. Similar fatigue and anxiety can develop from our daily personal and social interactions. On an interpersonal and even spiritual level, interactions with our family and friends, and interactions directly and indirectly, or even vicariously with the social world, including politics and civic actions at the federal, state, and local levels, may all have an impact on us. We can help ourselves achieve a more fully stable footing by making self-care a regular part of our lives, a priority in our lives. We can help ourselves achieve more emotional health by finding ways to work smarter, not harder. We help ourselves to be and feel more balanced when we normalize self-care, when we make self-care a normal part of our lives. That said, healthy self-care is an intentional way of living where our values, attitudes, and mindful actions become part of our daily routine. Self-care is not about doing more or adding more tasks to our already perhaps overflowing to-do list. Healthy self-care is as much about letting go and surrendering as it is about being pampered and setting and enforcing good boundaries. It is important for us to acknowledge that self-care is not the same for everybody, not at all the same for everybody. And it is not the same for us in different stages and situations in our lives. What works well for one person might not be the best method or option for you. While there is no single formula for self-care, even one deep centering breath can provide a moment of calm. A 10-minute walk can lower your blood pressure and decrease your depression. Each self-care plan is unique to the individual, unique to our individual needs, and unique to our individual goals. Each self-care plan may, likely will, and in fact should change over time. Change as our needs change, and change as our goals change. As we listen to our bodies, our hearts, and our minds, and consider input from our trusted friends and family and professionals, we can find resiliency, we can renew our lives, and we can improve our lives personally and professionally. The late Steve Jobs, the former CEO of Apple, once said, "In other eyes, his life was the essence of success. But aside from work, he had little joy. And in the end, wealth was just a fact of life to which he was accustomed." He went on to say, lying in bed, sick and remembering his life, he realized that all the recognition and wealth that he had was meaningless in the face of imminent death. You can hire someone to drive a car for you, make money for you, but you cannot rent someone to carry the disease for you. We can find material things, but there is one thing that cannot be found when it is lost. We cannot find life. Steve Jobs went on to suggest that we should all treat ourselves well and cherish others. As we get older, we get smarter, hopefully, and we slowly realize that whether the watch is worth $30 or $300, both show the same time. Whether we carry a purse worth $30 or $300, the amount of money in the wallets are the same. Whether we drive a car worth $150,000 or a car worth $30,000, the road and distance are the same. We reach the same destination. If the house we live in is 300 square meters or 3,000 square meters, the loneliness is the same. So your true inner happiness does not come from the material things of this world. Whether you're flying first class or economy class, if the plane crashes, you crash with it. So we should all understand that when you have friends or someone to talk to, then you have found true happiness. A few points of consideration regarding happiness and self-care, according to Steve Jobs. Eat your food as medicine. Otherwise, you will need to eat your medicine as food. Whoever loves you will never leave you, even if he or she has 100 reasons to give up. He or she will hopefully always find one reason to hold on. So if you do nothing else for your self-care, consider making sure to include sunlight, rest, exercise, a good diet, self-confidence, and friends. Just 10 minutes of direct sunlight has proven to reduce depression and stabilize moods. Our bodies need rest to heal physically, mentally, and emotionally. Exercise helps us elevate our heart rate and causes the brain to release brain-boosting chemicals to help improve mood, brain activity, and our emotions. A good diet with good nutrition is the foundation of good health. If we don't feel good, we can't do things to help us feel better. When we feel good physically, we are self-confident. We feel good about ourselves. Good self-care helps to boost our self-confidence. They do actually go hand in hand. The company you keep, your relationships, your friends have considerable impact on the way you feel and see things. Keeping people around you that encourage you rather than deplete you helps you thrive. So getting sunlight, rest, and exercise, and attending to your diet, self-confidence, and good relationships all impact your daily life. They help you manage your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health, and they are just some aspects of good self-care. And perhaps, just perhaps, we should take a deeper dive into understanding not just the importance of self-care in our lives, but also the simplicity of actively including self-care in our lives. Understanding that taking care of yourself is taking care of others. Effectively managing relationships in our lives is understanding that even if we have children, we must be a priority in our lives. We must maybe, just maybe, be the priority in our lives, at least at times. And making me a priority in my life means making sure I take care of me. It means making sure I include and incorporate self-care in my regular life and on a daily basis. So self-care is taking care of me. Self-care is taking care of my health, my total health, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Self-care is taking care of my kids, my spouse, my loved ones, my friends, my professional life, and my community. Simply put, self-care is life. With such an important part of allowing us to succeed, to thrive, and to shine our light, we need to make sure we are making self-care a priority. Each of us needs to do that because we need all of us to succeed in Black and Brown communities. Each of us matters. And that is why we at ViewTech do what we do, because we know that if we have changed just one life, then we have changed the entire world. And we hope incorporating self-care into your life regularly and consistently will change your entire world. So thank you for joining us. Help us out with a like. Share our podcast with your friends and family. Hit the subscribe button and continue the conversation. Let us know in the comments what you have learned about self-care and what your self-care strategies are that you would suggest to your best friend, your sister, your brother, your son, your daughter, and your neighbor. And look for our next segment on self-care and Black and Brown communities with women. men, youth, and relationships. Also, look for helpful links in the description. Again, thank you and good day.